Not all classrooms have four walls, they said. The Finance and Investment Cell of the Department of Professional Studies, Christ University, is one such classroom where we've been given a platform to explore the corporate world without any walls limiting us. A hearty welcome to the third episode of the Let's Talk series, hosted by FIC, where we get to interact with professionals from top companies. These alumni members' journey is something that inspires us and takes us one step closer to mapping out our pathways.
So today we have with us two bright and young minds, Joseph Joy, an associate at Bain and Company, and Kavya Pasricha, an analyst at Bain and Company. Joseph graduated with a BCom degree from the batch of 2017, while Kavya completed her BBA honors degree in 2020. The moderators for today's event are Anitej Madhukar and I, Dhruv Jain from the Finance and Investment Cell, Department of Professional Studies. Please note, audience, your questions throughout the discussion can be put in the chat box. We will address them in the end. Kavya and Joseph, we're thrilled to have you here with us. Hope you're doing well. How has the lockdown been for you?
Uh, Thank you for that introduction. It feels like I'm back in college again, part of one of Christ's, events which we had in the big Audi. The lockdown hasn't been too bad, I guess. I think I get to be back home, so I was staying away with family, so that's a good thing. I'm able to spend more time with family. The remote working took a bit of time to get used to, and yeah, it's bizarre times we live in. I think I haven't been able to get a haircut for a while, which is why I have a cap. So please forgive me if I look unprofessional. But I mean, work doesn't seem to mind, so I guess you guys shouldn't have an issue.
Yeah. Kavya, how has the lockdown been for you?
So the lockdown has been a journey, quite a journey. I graduated in the lockdown and then I started working in the lockdown, so it feels really weird. And I was back at home in Sri Lanka with my family, but then I had to fly to India to start working. So currently I'm in Bangalore and working remotely. So staying solo has been pretty good, like learning how to cook and like, doing your own chores and like figuring out how to go by the day. It's been good.
That's really good to know. So let's jump right into our first question for the day. So, Kavya, can you tell us what a typical workday looks like as an analyst at Bain and Company?
So a typical work day, like my work starts around 9:30, at times 10 also. So we are flexible with that. And I'm in the private equity group at Bain, and we deal with top PE funds and firms, and we handle cases like due diligence and strategy, even workforce and survey analytics cases. So I would say we have a plethora of varied types of cases which come in to us, and that's why like all my days look very dynamic, and when I wake up in the day I don't know what I'm going to do. So the excitement and the thrill is pretty good. I feel like working at Bain has been pretty dynamic. Like I get to work with so many people and varied people from across geographies. It's been like a good journey till now.
I think that explains your role at Bain in a very detailed manner. Thank you for that. So, Joseph, as an associate, what does your day look like?
It's very similar to what Kavya described. I think there's maybe slightly more responsibilities there in terms of managing a team and setting work streams, deciding what each person needs to work on for the day. So I think it start off with planning on what are the action items for the day, which we have to ultimately deliver, say to not to the ultimate client, but with a discussion with the onshore consultant. So we pretty much divide work, have multiple check-ins during the day to see how we are progressing. So that by the end of the day, we have an output which is, actionable and in a good shape so that a consultant can look at it and be able to draw insights from it to help their clients.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like an interesting role and something you look forward to. So, Joseph, how has the transition been from the office workspace to work from home? Given the situation, how has it impacted the work at hand?
So I'd say initially there was a bit of a difficulty in transitioning because when it comes to consulting, a lot of the work which you do is very dependent on working in a team. So it really helps to have the other person with you, to have everyone in a room, have, say, a whiteboard where you can brainstorm and get ideas flowing. But I think Zoom has been helpful in helping people stay connected with the disadvantage that now we're facing too much screen time. So I think that transition took a bit of time, but I think it also comes with a lot of benefits in terms of we're more flexible in terms of when we can start our day, when we can end our day, and at what pace we need to work. So I think those are definite benefits, but I think working as a team, being there for each other, as a team virtually took a bit of time to get used to, but I think we're doing a great job right now.
Yeah, I'm sure the process has a lot of pros and cons involved to it. Kavya, how has the process of adapting to the work from home circumstances been for you?
It has been a little bit of a challenge, like on a personal front, but on a company front, the onboarding and getting to know the people in the company has been seamless. When I joined, I was allotted a buddy who could help me and be my first friend at office, to just direct me and just make me feel comfortable. So that was really nice, and even the training and everything was seamless. I feel that they've done a brilliant job when it comes to making us feel comfortable, especially because we are joining our first job virtually. So I feel that it was amazing. Like I still feel like very comfortable. I feel like it's gonna take me a while to get comfortable in the physical workspace after this, because now we're so used to seeing everyone on video calls and stuff. And the worst part is that I haven't really associated names to faces yet. I have associated them to voices. So that's like pretty funny. But apart from that, has been really great.
Yeah, I think the buddy system is something that would definitely stand out given the circumstances right now. Joseph, could you draw a comparison between your roles at Goldman Sachs and at Bain, considering you had a brief stint with them as well? Was there any significant difference in the work culture or the recruitment process when it comes to the two companies?
I'd say that my roles in both companies were completely different. In Goldman Sachs, I was a part of the investment banking division. So our objective was mainly working with teams who were working on live M&A cases and build pitch books for them. So over there, you'd have an onshore team, which is say based out of US, UK, Australia, pretty much anywhere in the world, maybe even India. And you'd work with them to create a pitch deck. So I wouldn't say it was very much oriented towards, you don't need to do a lot of brainstorming. You don't need constant check-ins with your team. It's more of an individual type of work. And it's very fixed in terms of what the deliverables are. Like it's predetermined what a pitch book has. You can tweak it here and there, but you have an idea of what needs to be done even before you wake up in the morning and look at your email. When it comes to consulting, I wouldn't say there are predetermined solutions for everything. You can have a framework. You can have something which guides you in terms of what your final output looks like. But I think it's more dynamic in terms of you need to work together as a team to figure out a solution. So you could wake up one morning and be staffed on a case, which is a very open-ended question. So for example, we worked on a case where we had to determine the market size of conveyor-based, car washes in the US. So that's a very general question. It's a very open-ended question. So it falls on you to work as a team and build out a framework which helps you, find that, meaning it's a directional answer. We're not looking at an accurate answer. So it requires a lot of brainstorming and thinking together as a team, as opposed to working on a deliverable which is already fixed, by people who worked before you. So I think that would be a key difference.
Yeah, I think that does highlight the obvious distinction between the two roles that you had. So let's just jump into the specifics when it comes to recruitment as such. So could you throw some light on the entire application and interview process at Bain? And also, if you were a Bain employer and had to pick one particular skill or a quality that a candidate must possess, what would that be?
Sure. So when I applied for Bain, I already had work experience. I was working at Goldman Sachs, and prior to Goldman, I'd worked at a wealth management firm called Anand. So I already had things to show on my resume in terms of work experience. So that sort of helped me stand out when it came to the initial screening process. I think Kavya would be able to shed more light on the interview process for campus placements. But as far as laterals go, we have usually 2 to 3 rounds. Your initial round would be something which is a question where it's a guesstimate essentially. They'll ask you to determine a market size of something, giving you very limited information, and the onus is on you to ask questions get more information from them and figure out an answer. So what they're looking for isn't an accurate or a correct answer. What they're trying to see is how you think and what are your problem solving abilities. So if you're able to give a good answer there, you go to the second round, which is more of a case study. So I'm sure you must have seen a lot of videos on YouTube or maybe even books where they talk about the case study process when it comes to consulting. So there are, I think, typical cases like a profitability case, a market penetration case, etc. So there's a set of framework which you can use to answer a question. So they again would give you limited information. Say an XYZ company has this much revenue, is facing a certain challenge. So what are your suggestions in terms of how to like improve that? So if it's a profitability case, you can either go down the cost route and try to minimize costs, or go down, the selling side and see how you can sell more to your customers. So it's about thinking, it's about like taking a piece of paper, writing it down, building out that framework, asking the correct questions, and they really judge you on how you think, how prepared you are when it comes to this scenario, and also like if they throw a wild question at you, how you're able to deal with that. So that's what they mostly look for. So that's more of the technical side. I'd just like to add that your soft skills also go a long way, because during my interview process, I was faced with few questions which I didn't have an answer for, but they also look at how you deal with that. It's always better not to bluff and just say that, hey, maybe I don't know the answer, or maybe I think this could be the answer, but I'm not very sure. So I think that's something which people can keep in mind while going through the interview process.
I think that the entire process does sound quite comprehensive and detailed as such, and it was quite a technical ride, is how I perceive it. But Kavya, could you, thread some light on the entire interview process and what was that like?
Okay, so as Joseph said, my process looked exactly the same. We had 2 rounds of interviews. First started with guesstimation, and they also assessed my resume in that round. They asked me questions about where I worked, where I interned, what kind of research paper I wrote, and why I did that, why I chose that topic. And then we moved on to guesstimates, and that's the first round. So once you clear that, they take you to the second round, which is a case study round, which is exactly how Joseph described it. I also got a similar case, and they do throw you like questions a little bit here and there, which you might not be expecting again. And I believe that from my interview process, I could assess that, they're not looking for a definite answer. They want to see how you think on your feet and how you tackle the questions. Like if you're in a room with the interviewer, do you get stressed and start bluffing, or do you take it at a mature like pace and just be like, okay, maybe I'm not aware about this topic, could you please help me or direct me in this way? So the right questions asked and the right things spoken, I feel they like guide you to a long way, because that's what they're looking for, how you maturely handle things and how you will probably maturely take things up when you are a part of the company. So that's how my process looked like.
So yeah, I think like you mentioned, thinking on your feet is probably one of the most important skills out there when it comes to interviews. So Kavya, how would you advise a student to modify their resume according to the job at stake? Which are some of the key aspects that they must pay special attention to, and which you would think would be bound to make an impact?
So personally, I believe that when you're applying for a company, do not use like the same resume for all. You should tailor your resume according to the company you're sitting for, according to the role you're sitting for. Also, like I would definitely say that highlight the important things. Like if you wrote a research paper, definitely highlight that. Your extracurriculars matter a lot. Like they don't just look at academics, they look at what you did beyond that. So mention that you did, if you're a part of a theater group or if you're a part of a dance team, anything works. Even you should highlight like stuff like, if you were a fester, that plays a big role. I was a wealth management fester, and I could highlight that. They also look at leadership roles. So I was core team events in my 3rd year at university. So I could highlight that easily, that I took leadership there. So I think these are a few key aspects. Also, maybe if you did some course way beyond your specialization, that goes a long way. Like I got interested in this topic called blockchain, on which I did my research paper. So I did more courses on it to just to know what it's about and go into depths about it. So that played a big role in my resume. They asked me questions about it, and I could like actually talk about it with passion. I think that's what they look for, and I think you should, not keep your resume very long because that's what they don't look for.
Yeah, I think this is something all of us should keep in mind. Joseph, would you like to add on? Are there any outputs, thoughts as per you?
I think, yeah, one key point Kavya mentioned there is keep your resume just to one page. So the thing is, they receive a lot of candidates, a lot of resumes which they need to go through. So that's something which I've been told by my manager himself when he conducts interviews, that I'd like to see only one page. If it's going to two pages, then that becomes really difficult. So that sort of puts them off there itself. So make sure your resume is only one page. Try to keep things as brief as you can while bringing out, the essence of what you're looking for. And like Kavya mentioned, I think academics isn't the only thing they're looking for. Like if you have good grades, that's great. That gets you through a screening process. But they also want to look at how you are as an individual as a whole. So it definitely helps to have things there which points towards your leadership abilities, your abilities to work in a team, to organize something, to communicate and coordinate with other people. So highlighting things like that in your extracurriculars definitely helps.
I think there are some quite interesting points there, and all of us should keep that in mind, especially while making our resumes. So, also, we do understand that getting recruited by Bain is a quite competitive process. How did you prepare for it, and was there anything specific you focused on? Also, could you suggest some additional resources and tips which could help us out?
Is that for me or is it for Kavya?
We'll go with Kavya and then we'll move on
Sure.
to, yeah.
Okay, so yes, it is like they do focus a lot on case-oriented stuff. So what you can do is maybe look up online cases already handled by different consulting firms that would give you a little exposure on the kind of cases these big firms handle, and maybe read up on how they tackled it. You will come across few YouTube videos also, I feel. So that's some way you can prep, definitely. There isn't, like, I would definitely say that there isn't any right answer to something you can prep already and go for. They won't ask you ratios and formulas for fractions or something. They will definitely put questions which will make you think on your feet. So what they want you to do right there is like use your presence of mind, be confident with whatever you tackle, and like try not to bluff, like Joseph said. So that makes a lot of sense. So basically I would say that read up a lot online, read up the cases which have already been handled by the companies, go through interview processes. They have a few of them as samples on YouTube, I feel. So that could definitely come handy, and that's what I did. Like nothing more than this. Just present yourself as confident and go for it.
Yeah, I think those are some great insights. Joseph, could you also share some of your insights?
Yeah, so I had about a week to prepare, before my interview. I found out that I'd been shortlisted for an interview. So what I mostly did is one at each of the top MBB firms' websites, you get a sample case study, be it McKinsey, Bain, BCG. So one, go through that, go through those samples and see what the answers were provided over there. To have someone to help you prepare, you need to have and this is very important, you need to have someone to ask you questions. Like, be it just a guesstimate, practice with them, ask them to come up with a random question, like how much coconut oil do you think is manufactured in India as a country as a whole? Just random questions, practice with it. You're essentially like figuring out a way to answer random questions. So that's one. Second is, I think there are lots of videos on YouTube which are like a mock interview session. Going through that helps. And I think there are a few books. It depends on how much time you have. I think there's Victor Cheng's book, which is very famous. And there's also a book by a few Indian students, who joined BCG. And I can't remember the name, but it's very oriented towards an Indian audience, the kind of questions they can ask you. So I found that also very helpful.
So yeah, I'm sure all these websites and the sample case studies are something all of us should keep in mind. Kavya, so I'm assuming you were involved in a lot of extracurriculars, like you mentioned. How did these activities and experiences, help you prepare for the corporate world, and what weightage did they carry in the selection process per se?
So I would definitely say that I was a huge introvert in school. It took a while for me to get out there and start doing things. So in 11th grade in my school, I started dancing a lot. I started becoming part of different things and teams. In university specifically, I was part of the dance team called the Noisy Corridor. That gave me a lot of exposure into dance, into leadership, into a lot of things. I was also, as I said, a wealth management festor. That gave me like a lot of research capabilities, I would say, and thinking on my feet and how to take out solutions. So that was interesting. Then I went into organizing and core committee. I was a part of TEDx also, so that also helped me a lot with leadership and organizing skills. So I feel like all of these things, like when you put them in a box, they round you up as a person, as who you are today. So like they help you come out of a box and think on your feet, and how would you, given a situation, handle things, and confidently deal with things. So that's how it helped me, and all of it shaped me so that I could confidently put myself in the interview and in front of the panel. So that was something which helped me a lot, and I would recommend people to not just to stick with books, actually go out there and discover, because there are so many opportunities, and like do something new every time so that you get exposed to something interesting. So
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I think that brings out a whole new color of confidence in you, and that's really great to hear. Joseph, what are your thoughts on the same?
So I think with consulting, there is no set background. For example, if you want to work in investment banking, it makes sense to study finance in college, but there is no such requirement in consulting that you need to come from a particular background. So if you look at our company, I'd say there is a slight inclination towards maybe someone from an engineering background. It mostly has to do with whether you're comfortable with dealing with numbers. So if you're someone who likes dealing with numbers, who thinks that from numbers they can derive insights, and they have good communication skills to ultimately present that to the client, then consulting is the field for you. So doing anything while you're in college or in your internships, which sort of puts you in a situation where you work with numbers. And I think Christ does a great job with presentation skills already. We have so many CIAs. I feel like that's all we did in Christ. So you definitely have an advantage over there. So as long as you enjoy working with numbers too, then I think that should like put you in a great position.
Think it to me it sounds like both of you have had a complete all-rounded student life, and I think all of us should aspire to have the same. And I think the answer Joseph also gave clears a lot of things about consulting, gives us a lot of clarity there as well. But how would you describe the work culture at Bain, as in when it comes to bringing out the best in you, and how has the work-life balance been so far?
Work culture at Bain, if you look at the best companies to work for, you'd see Bain popping up in the top, a lot of times. So Bain definitely focuses on, giving enough time to its employees in terms of transitioning into your role, developing in there. There's constant support provided. So Bain is a great company to work for. And especially in terms of when COVID hit, I think one thing which was going through the heads of a lot of working professionals was, are we going to lose our jobs? Are we going to get a pay cut? Something of that sort. So two things. One, Bain as a company always puts its employees first. So they've put in a lot of policies. We haven't had salary cuts. We haven't seen any person being relieved from their roles. And if anything, our bonuses have also gone up. So Bain as a company puts its employees first, even in terms of working on a case. Right now, what's happening is they staff extra people to your team on a case so that it gives the flexibility of someone to take the time off during COVID, if they need to take care of someone in their family or they're sick themselves. So that's great. And another thing has got to do with the fact that consulting as an industry has not been affected much by COVID. If anything, it's been booming because of COVID, because you see a lot of companies now in the need for advisory services. So I think consulting is a bit, a COVID proof, I'd say, in terms of, business hasn't really suffered as much. But with that being said, Bain does an exceptional job of taking care of the employees.
I think that's really good to know that the company, works in such a way and is doing well. And the fact that you didn't have any salary cuts just sounds good. Kavya, what are your thoughts on the same? How would you describe the work culture?
So I would definitely say that it has genuinely been absolutely thrilling to work for 5 months virtually. But like the work culture, I genuinely did not expect people to be so warm and so welcoming. And it's not all work, 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 and you just log off. It's like, when you have a little free day, we're like, okay, let's plan a fun activity. So we might, play games or, talk and, get to know each other better, even though we're all only virtual. So we're just seeing faces, but it's still really nice. And I feel that they give a lot of flexibility. Like if a person is, even if they want to take care of someone or they're not feeling well, you can genuinely just tell them and it's all right. Like they're not gonna be, they're not gonna make a hassle about it basically. So it's really nice. They have been very, very comfortable with us. That's what, like how Joseph said, they have been very lenient with a lot of things, which is really nice. And they've been very considerate towards their employees when it comes to, paying them and like, even leaves for that matter. They've been very considerate, especially people who've been directly affected by COVID. They've been very, very nice to them, very, very, like they have taken care of them very beautifully. So I feel personally very comfortable working for Bain, and the environment has been tremendously amazing. I cannot wait to go to office and actually physically work with people because it's already been so great. So I'm excited for what's in store.
Yeah, I think flexibility is pretty crucial given the circumstances right now, and it's great to see you guys fit right into the environment. And Kavya, given the fact that you recently graduated about a year or so ago, what helped you make a call between taking up a job and pursuing further studies? And do you have any plans in the future regarding the same?
Okay, so I have a lot of juniors who keep asking me for advice on like if they should pursue masters or like what should they do? Like should they take up a job? I personally feel like I followed my father's footsteps, so he also took a job right after his undergrad, and I feel like you get the right exposure once you step into the work world, you see how to handle things practically, and I feel that helps you and go a long way with your MBA or whatever masters you want to do in. So that's what helped me decide that I should like first take a hands-on experience and work with one of the best firms and like see how it works and then go for my masters. As of now, I'm like focusing on my work and like where it takes me. I'm also trying to figure out what exactly is where my interest lies when it comes to a microscopic view. So after this is when I'll decide what I want to do my masters in and when I want to do it. But as of now, there aren't any like near future plans, as I'm like still focusing and trying to figure out stuff. But yeah, definitely would want to do masters in the future.
That's really nice to know. Joseph, what about you? What are your thoughts on pursuing further studies?
I'd say if during the course of your study you found something which you really want to specialize in, like say from an engineering perspective, if there's someone who started work on say machine learning and they really want to pursue it, then go ahead, do a master's. But me personally, I don't think an MBA right after your degree makes sense because one, a lot of MBA colleges look for work experience, and two, work experience meaning you have that opportunity like right after your undergrad to go and explore what you really want to do. Because me as a student, I liked finance when I was in college, but when I worked in a wealth management firm and when I worked in investment banking, what you do as a job is very different from what you learn day to day in college. So that helps you. You have that flexibility to explore jobs and find something which you really want to do and which you really like. And through that process, you might discover that, hey, okay, maybe an MBA makes sense. Or maybe now that say I'm working in consulting, I do a lot of data work and I like it. Maybe I can do a master's in data science as well. So that experience really opens your mind in terms of what opportunities are available in the market. And if you're working with a firm which gives you the ability to sponsor your MBA. Like Bain has a policy where, say, if you get into Wharton or if you get into a set league of Ivy colleges, they'll sponsor your MBA and you can come back and work for the firm. So an MBA is a huge cost. So that's one way to mitigate that. So like personally speaking, I felt it made sense for me to get some work experience before going for my master's.
I think that pretty much answers our next question, which was considering we're talking about consulting, it was basically if we should pursue a professional course or an MBA. I think I mean, Joseph, I'll direct this to you. How relevant do you think pursuing professional courses along with your undergraduate degrees would come into place in the corporate world? And how do you think they would help in giving you an edge with respect to a job or, let's say, other candidates?
Yeah, I'd say if you're pursuing a professional course, don't approach it from the angle that this looks good on my resume, and hence when I apply for a firm, they see this and it opens a door for me. Because I think that only helps you so much. If you want to pursue a certification, do something which really interests you. For example, if it's like, again, I speak from a consulting point of view, where if working with data really helps, is something which you really like. I know a lot of professional certifications out there which you can do, say, with either an IIT in India or with an MIT abroad, which gives you a really good professional certificate. And post that, you have opportunities in, say, consulting or working with a strategy team in, say, Google or Flipkart or any firm. And that acts as an edge, because now you have a degree which is one which you is related to work which you like doing, and two, it also like gives you that edge when it comes to an interview and will help in your day-to-day job. So my only advice would be, like, for example, CFA. I see a lot of students doing CFA, and at times I feel that they're doing it because everyone's doing it. So, and these courses are expensive. So I'd suggest do something if that's something which you're really interested in and you could see yourself pursuing as a career in the future. But don't pursue a course just to add it on your resume, thinking that it'll get you into a company.
So personally, Anitej and I were our CFA aspirants, and hearing that last sentence does put some thoughts in our heads, I think. But I guess that does give us some clarity, and we have things to considering we're in our first year, we do have a long way ahead. We move on to the next question.
Yeah. So, Joseph, I'll direct this to you. We're well aware that there are a lot of renowned companies that recruit students, and there are various avenues to choose from. How do you streamline these options and pick out the company or the role that is best suited to you?
So to give you an honest answer, when placements happened in college, I didn't really sit for them, because me personally, I was very confused as to what I wanted to do. So my advice and what I ultimately did was do a lot of internships. So I thought I'd find X interesting. I was very interested in auditing, and I did an internship with Deloitte. And I saw that while it's interesting to study in college, pursuing it as a career for me didn't make sense, because I didn't see myself doing this for the next 5 to 10 years. And I did an internship at a wealth management firm, which was Anand Rathi. And it wasn't a pre-placement offer because it wasn't through college, but they really liked the work I did, and I also enjoyed it, which is why ultimately they made me an employee. So my route was always do internships, because one, it gives you the opportunity where you can explore a role without any downside. Like, you can make mistakes, you have that liberty where, hey, if I don't like this, I don't have to do this. Like, this is just an internship, it's not my career. So a lot of internships make sense in terms of helping you decide what your career path is, because once you join a firm 2 months in, realizing that, hey, this is not something I want to do, makes things a bit difficult for you.
So yeah, I think it all boils down to having that clarity of thought. And Kavya, what about you? How did you streamline these options and pick out the company or a role that is best suited to you?
So I would completely agree with Joseph. I myself started doing internships in first year because I wanted to get an idea as to, what I really like. But I was like, okay, I'm not going to fix to one stream. I'm going to explore it all. So I went with Coca-Cola in my first year as a marketing intern, which is completely different from what I specialize in. But I would definitely say that was really interesting. And, it did give me some thought that maybe this is what I like, and they actually asked me to come back and work for them after like 3 years when I complete. So then in my second year, I worked with PwC in Sri Lanka in financial advisory, which was also very interesting to explore, but wasn't something which is exactly what I wanted to do. So when the placements came, I wasn't very sure as to which role exactly, caters to what I would want to do. So before Bain, I sat for Shaw as their role was in financial analyst or financial operations, I believe. And that was a good role, but again, that was too fixated on just core finance. And I wanted something, in consulting, because I feel that's a more all-rounded kind of a stream wherein you get to explore different aspects and work with data, which I actually really enjoyed. So that was something which was a little focused when I was doing my marketing internship. Also, they focus a little on data, and I was really excited about that. So when I saw Bain's, posting, and I saw that they have an analyst role, so I got really interested and applied for it immediately. And I feel, at the end of the day, you need to like make sure that you go for something you are interested in. Like people say that you should go for big companies, and you get exposure, and you get to learn something new. But I feel you should go for some role which you are interested in, and not only like see company's name. So that's what I did. I felt that the role was perfect for me, and hence I went for it. And not only just seeing, that Bain is a very good firm and like it's one of the top firms. So I feel like definitely go for a role which interests you more. And yeah, that's how I narrowed it down for myself.
Thank you for sharing your experience. I think that gives us a lot of clarity about the fact that it's not always about the company, it's about the role. And it's always about finding what you are best suited for and not the company, which, let's say you have a dream company. It's not always about getting there and finding the perfect role for you. I think that gives us a lot of clarity. So, reiterating to the pandemic, how has it affected Bain's recruitment process? And in your opinion, is this transition from offline to online reversible? Kavya, you can answer and then we'll take up Joseph's point of view.
Okay, so in my view, I've only been here for about 5 months, and I feel they have been recruiting like tremendously still. In the past few months, they have recruited so many people. Even in Christ, I think last year they did recruit a few people. So I feel that it hasn't really impacted too much. As Joseph said, consulting hasn't really gotten like impacted that much. And I feel that it's definitely gonna take a while for everyone to shift to office now, because it's still not, the situation is still not okay. So it's probably gonna be about a few more months for us to go to office. But I believe that recruitment hasn't really gotten that impacted, and that's why there is still a lot of hope and scope for people who want to apply.
Yeah, I think you speak for all of us in hoping that it's just months and not years before we go to the office space. Joseph, what are your thoughts on the same?
So yeah, I think we've been expanding a lot. Just to give you numbers, this year, since the beginning of the year, we've hired around 430 people, and our numbers in terms of hiring has been greater than what we did in 2019 or 2020. So in terms of opportunities, there are a lot of opportunities out there because we see a lot of business coming in, and we're looking for the right talent to help the firm meet this demand. So in terms of opportunities, there are plenty, and I think there comes a lot of advantages with working virtually. I think there are pros and cons. Onboarding is a bit difficult when it comes to working virtually. Like finding your place initially takes time, but I think it gives you the opportunity to like work from anywhere in the country. I think earlier, say, since our offices are mostly based out of Delhi and Gurgaon, people would have to make the shift to move over there. And even if it's a company which they really like and it's a role they like, maybe they would be hesitant towards relocating. I think with working virtually, that limitation is gone. And even in terms of looking towards the future, I think what's been the discussion within the company is that things won't be the same, meaning offices will open up, you will be able to go to office and work, but that's not something which will be forced upon you. You will have the option to say work remotely, work from your home, work from anywhere in the world, and say opt for working from office for certain periods of time, and transitioning like that. So I think uh, students shouldn't necessarily be demotivated thinking that, hey, we're graduating in times of COVID and there might not be a lot of opportunities out there, because at least within Bain and within consulting, I think there are a lot of opportunities. And there are a lot of advantages also you will see graduating as part of this batch.
So yeah, I think the transition is going to be a quite an interesting process and something for us to look forward to. And yeah, this is and now it's time to move on to our next segment, the rapid fire round. So the drill is pretty simple. A question will be asked, and both of you will alternately have to rapidly and briefly answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. So let us begin with Joseph and followed by Kavya for each question. Okay, so the first question is, name that one skill set or the software which you think is a must learn for every student.
Excel and PowerPoint, of course. It's very important, be it banking, consulting, anything. But I'd also suggest that we are moving towards new technologies. Within Bain, we work with Tableau, which is a visualization software, Alteryx, which is a data management software. So while Excel and PowerPoint is a must, it definitely helps to know something else like Python, SQL, something which makes you stand out.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Excel, hands down, you should definitely know properly, and PowerPoint as well. And yeah, we are like definitely seeing, increase in Tableau and all tricks as well. So that would be a plus on your resume if you have it.
Okay, so what is the ideal way for you to cool off after a strenuous work day?
I play the guitar, that helps. And I think working out or meditating helps because you're constantly sitting down, staring at a screen. So getting some sort of physical activity, it doesn't have to be an intense workout, just go for a walk. Like it just helps you, take that stress away.
Okay, for me, would be, like I have a lot of hobbies like dancing, painting, even journaling for that matter. So after a long day, I would like to, just journal, or like Joseph said, meditating also like really helps. Or, favorite pastime of today's generation, just binging something on Netflix, definitely, makes me really happy. So yeah, that's some of things I like to do after work.
That's good to know.
And like Joseph mentioned about the guitar, I think Satwik even mentioned in the chat box that something we can see in the background and quite evident there. Okay,
Yeah,
coming to the next
I
question.
just keep it there, as like an icebreaker. So it just helps.
Yeah, noted. Coming to the next question, how would you describe your Christ life in one word or one sentence?
Everything that I needed. So I feel Christ as a university, meaning going in, I think each individual has their own experience. If you're going there to study, you can study. If you're going there to have fun, you can have fun. So it's up to you to decide what your Christ experience will be.
Yeah, I would say that it was a roller coaster ride, fun nonetheless. But yeah, again, you have to, try to make it the best experience for you. So you grab on the best opportunities out there and, do it.
I mean, let's hope all our first, second, and third years are the same. Which was that one subject from your undergraduate program that intrigued you the most?
I love marketing. So for me, whether I like a subject or not also depends on the teacher. So I loved accounting a lot because of Naveen sir. I hope you've had the opportunity to learn from him at some point. But marketing was also as a subject which I liked a lot because we had a lot of research opportunities where we did a research paper on how video games sort of like get you addicted to them. And we actually conducted an experiment on our friends without them knowing. So that was a lot of fun. So yeah, marketing I loved.
I would say that I really liked insurance, which was taught by Naveen sir, coincidentally. It was amazing. He is such an insightful teacher. He, gives you stuff to just do in class. Even I really liked studying law, which was taught by Kushagra sir. So it was super nice. I feel like these two, I think I completely agree with Joseph. It depends on the teacher, like what subjects interest you. So yeah, for me, these were the two.
Yeah, I'm sure if Naveen sir was watching this, he'd have a smile on his face. Yeah. Moving on to the next question. If there was one movie or one show that you could watch today, or which you would claim to be your comfort movie or comfort show, which one would that be?
In terms of a show, I think it'll always be Friends. There are a lot of shows which come and go, but at the end of the day, if you just want to relax and not like be too stressed out, just watch Friends.
Okay, for me, it definitely comes down to two shows. One is The Office. So after The Office, you watch The Office. It's the perfect thing to, just relax. And the second one is just a new one, which is Schitt's Creek. It just got popular recently. That's definitely one of my favorite shows of all times. I know, hands down, I'll be seeing that 5 years down the line.
That's quite interesting to hear. And thank you, Joseph and Kavya. With this, we've reached the end of our discussion segment. And we move on to the final segment, the question and answer segment. We're open to questions from the audience. You can just send it across in the Q&A box and our speakers will address them.
So I would request the attendees to start posting the questions. Okay, so we do have one question. What is the scope of creative fields like marketing in Bain?
I can answer that one. In terms of if you're looking at marketing specifically, that's very niche. So I don't think there would be a very specific role like marketing director or marketing manager in Bain. But there is a scope for a lot of creative fields as well. I mean, we have graphics teams and we have certain teams which specialize in the kind of messages we put out, the kind of PR messages we have, and what we ultimately showcase potential clients to onboard them. So I would say it's more of a generalist role rather than something specific like marketing.
Kavya, do you have anything to add on to that?
No, that was what I was going to say. We have graphics team and that's fantastic. I genuinely find them super interesting. When I was having my training, I could see it and it's such an interesting field. So if you do specialize in graphics, like I think that's the best suited fit in Bain.
Yeah. We also have another question. What's the process of trying to work in international branches of any company right after graduation?
If it's specific to Bain, then I can answer that. Where if you're thinking, if your question meant that right after you graduate, can you work, say, out of the US? Well, that depends if you have the necessary visa and formalities to work out of there. If yes, then there's nothing stopping you. But if you're looking to transitioning towards an international branch after working in Bain, India, I think there are a few opportunities, but it's not right after you join. Maybe after say 2 years in the firm, you get opportunities to say work out of the US, work out of I think Poland and a lot of other places, work on externships. And if they really like you there, then you have the opportunity to transition.
I think there's a similar question along those lines. Keeping COVID scenario aside, does your role include traveling opportunities?
I think it does to an extent, I feel. So if I do want to do, as Joseph said, after a while, maybe I can go on externships. So I'm just new in the firm right now for only 5 months. After 2.5 years, we do have opportunities to, go outside and, work with other teams outside India. So yeah, that is there.
Before we
Yeah.
move to the
And,
next, oh, yeah,
and
go.
yeah, just to add on to that, not just in terms of work, I think Bain's a great place where you get to travel a lot, regardless of what your role is. So I'd say if you join as an analyst, even in terms of your training, sadly, Kavya joined during COVID times.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't COVID, an analyst training happens in one of the Palace hotels in Jaipur. If you become an associate, your trainings usually happen either in Chicago or Ireland or Cancun. And we have our offsites also, which happen, I think it happened before in Dubai or Bangkok. So there is a lot of opportunity to travel, not just in terms of work, but also in terms of trainings and just like hanging out with the team as a whole.
Oh, all those names sound really appealing. Before we move on to the next question, Kavya, there is Samreen ma'am wishing you. She has her best wishes for you, and she says it's good to see you here. I just want to mention that.
Definitely. So sweet. Miss you too, ma'am. Been a while.
Right. So the next question was if there is an aptitude test prior to the resume screening process.
I did have a small aptitude test. Wasn't really an aptitude test per se. It was more case oriented, like small case of examples, and like there was an MCQ test. So that was right after my orientation in Christ only with Bain, and after they've briefed you on the interview process. It was a small thing they did in the evening, right before we were sent back home for the to so that we can have our interview on the next day. So one small aptitude based test I had.
So we have an interesting question here. Can you give an example of a challenging project which you pursued under consulting sector?
I'd say that every project is challenging, but I think something which was specific, very, specific to the current scenario was when COVID first hit. I think one project which we worked on was we were part of this COVID task force, and we were working with, directly with the directors at Bain, global directors, where we were looking at each country and sort of trying to figure out how the country was going to react towards COVID. Each industry, which industries are going to boom, which industries are going to be affected a lot, how is vaccine development going in the various countries, which companies are manufacturing vaccines, which ones are getting approvals. So that was a very open-ended multi-industry case which we worked on, and it was like every day that'd be something new because that was what the situation was like. So that was a pretty challenging case.
That's great to hear. And we also have another question. Is internship available at Bain's presently or in the near future?
So I think right now internships might not be available at this point of time because we just finished, our batch of interns who just joined. So I think they'd open up again sometime soon. And internships are mostly through college. There are, I think, very limited opportunity to apply as an intern, outside your college. But I think we have the scope of hiring people as analysts, even outside campus placement. So if you didn't make it through campus placement through Christ, we also hire people if you apply, say, through the portal or if you get a referral from someone. And if your resume stands out, then you have a chance of making it to an interview.
Right. So the next question is kind of similar to what you just mentioned. So someone is curious to know if Joseph, if you applied to Bain as a lateral hire, so was it through a referral or directly via the company's website?
So I got a referral. My friend was working at Bain. But then again, he joined 6 months before me, and that wasn't through a referral. He'd applied through the portal. A referral really helps, I think. But even if you don't have a referral, I don't think your chances are very slim. As long as your resume has the necessary things, then I'm sure you'll make it through the interview process.
Yeah, I think we have one last question. That is, what if you're not able to find good internships, and are the chances of getting placed without internships really low?
I would like to take a small stab at it. I feel internships play a huge role because they do kind of show, that you have worked hands-on with like a firm before. But again, that said, nowadays the times are so tough. I think companies definitely will be thinking towards more that students might not be able to go and do a physical internship, so virtual internships become an option. So that can definitely be an option and can be kept in mind. But yeah, personally I feel when people look at a resume, the first thing that at least whenever I sat for a job was my internships. Like the first thing they look at is your internship or your work experience in general.
We'll we'll end this segment with this last in question, which I think is slightly interesting. So the travel processes that you mentioned with the entire training as such, is it 100% sponsored by the company is what?
Yeah, I feel like I'm promoting my company here and asking all of y'all to come join Bain. It's a great experience for us. But yeah, I mean, it's completely sponsored by the company. You won't have to pay for travel if it's part of a training or if it's a company related thing.
That's really good to know. So with this, we reach the end of our session. The entire FIC team would like to thank Joseph and Kavya for their valuable time and interacting with us with so much of zeal. In fact, this conversation definitely gave us a whole new perspective and pushes us to strive harder towards our goals. We would also like to thank Professor Biju Toms, Director of the DPS, Kavita Ma'am, HOD of DPS, and Matthew Sir for their constant support and unmatched guidance. A big thank you to everyone who attended this fruitful session. Stay safe and have a good evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joseph and Kavya. It was great interacting with you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was really fun interacting with you. I mean, I'd like to ask you all a lot of questions because I'm very curious to know how your experience has been, going to college virtually and all of that.
I mean, yeah, it's not been the best considering how we were all enthusiastic about college life, but the circumstances are such that we have to make do with the virtual scenario. And yeah, like Drew mentioned, hopefully we all end up back up on the campus soon enough, and that's something we look forward to. So
Yeah, I mean, as first years, the experience has been as such that the college is doing their best in terms of making sure that we have whatever we can in these kind of situations. But obviously, it can get better at campus, and there's nothing compared to that. But virtually, we're all making the best of what we have. I think in the corporate world, as students at university, I think everyone's doing the same. So that's pretty much how it's been.
Yeah, and I think even this is a great initiative. It's not something which we had when I was in college, not to
Yes.
sound like a oldie who graduated ages ago. But I think with Zoom and everything being more prevalent, it gives you guys the opportunities to speak to someone who maybe isn't in Bangalore or somewhere else and has some time during the day to like help you out with something. So that's great.
correct. Yeah, FIC is a great platform for us to interact with people like you mentioned, and again, there's no barrier as such when it comes to the distance or the way we interact with others. So that's something that's been a plus point for us, and yeah.
So yeah, hang in there. You guys will get to see the beautiful Christ campus hopefully soon. But
So,
I think you guys are doing a great job with making do of all the resources you have, with the times.
thank you so much. We really
Thank
had a
you.
great time interacting with you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
You have a great evening.
Have a great.